So, Shabbat Shalom. What does it mean to be blessed? Truly blessed. This Shabbat, as I said, we get the Birkat Kohanim, the priestly benediction, and I have always felt that that benediction, that blessing, flows from God to all of us if we're worthy. I'm supposed to stand up here and do this, the Star Trek thing. Like if you're, and Mark Reichert's a Kohen, so he, they say if you can actually do this, you are probably from that line of Kohanim. But I never in my entire 30 years of working ever wanted to do that because I never felt that it was all upon me to bless you. It's upon God to bless us and for all of us to bless each other. And so that is how energy and spirituality and love and blessing should flow. That is why I've always done that way. Why is it that some who seem most worthy are the ones most apt to suffer, while others, cut of less noble cloth, appear to be endowed with an embarrassment of riches? Some confuse blessing with wealth. Many cling tightly to their wealth, while others give generously with their hearts open and no compulsion toward the power one can yield over another when they are in a position of affluence. Why is it that sometimes the poorest of people are the most happy and the richest can be downcast and alone, bereft of true friends or family? Blessings come in many different packages, sometimes at unlikely places. Some blessings can later on be perceived as a curse, depending upon which way the sword may fall, while some curses, looked in hindsight in the rearview mirror, can be viewed as an actual blessing. Has anyone ever experienced that? One never knows. And that is the point. The only true source of blessing comes from God. We say, may God bless you and keep you. May God's countenance shine upon you. May God be with you always and grant you peace. Peace, the greatest blessing of all, cannot be bought. Money provides comfort and the ability to do for others, but peace is something that comes from within. If a person strives to be peaceful, at one with themselves and with God, then that is what they can then attempt to share with the world. But if that person encounters another that is not filled with peace, but rather with feelings of negativity and resentment and envy or rage, each has an effect on the other. If this then fans out negatively into our world, one can see why we are all in the grave mess that we are in, collectively, as one humanity. There can be no peace in the Middle East, or here, or anywhere else, until each one of us takes responsibility to create peace within ourselves to combat the negativity. If we do this, then peaceful coexistence has an opportunity to become the norm. We must muster as many peaceful moments as possible and wrap ourselves up in its cocoon of safety to reach for and to feel the Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God that is around us and in us, in order to transform into something higher in purpose and greater in nature. When we say those words of blessing, we're not just mindfully or not mindfully saying them because we know them. We are channeling energy to enable us all to tap into that life force, that Ruach Elohim, that Spirit of God that has the power to transform us all and our world. But we have to want it. For some, war, chaos, dissent, is a more comfortable state to dwell in. Some actually get high from it. Being peaceful takes a bit of work. And those of you that take Roger's meditation class, you probably are familiar with this. Or Joy, I know you like to garden. You're probably familiar with this. Being mindful of the things that trigger and thwart balance and harmony can be challenging to navigate. When we say, may God's countenance shine upon you, we ask that the divine presence watch over, guide, and protect us through all of the nonsense and the negativity and the chaos that consumes our daily lives and cause us to deviate from a state of peace. So ask yourself, how can I bring more peace and the Spirit of God into my life? Steve goes out and surfs. I'm sure there's a lot of God and peace in those waves when you catch a good curve. How do we do that? Look at yourself and establish for you what that means. I'm trying to be grateful for the glass half full and not empty. I live in a place now where everyone, pretty much, every house I've been in has a full-on ocean view. And I'm this little tiny one if I look in between the two houses across the street. And so I decided I'm going to have some surgery. And I decided, where am I going to find my peace? If I'm trapped in my house for a few weeks, where am I going to go? My other house had the ocean view in the whole city, so many of you saw it. What am I going to do? And so I thought, no, I'm going to take charge of my deck. And so I got a glider, and I want to get a little bird bath and a little fountain, and I got an umbrella, and I got new pillows. And I realized if I put that glider in one particular spot, I can lay on it, or I can look forward, and I can see that little sliver of ocean in between the two places across the street. And then I noticed I sat on the glider and I breathed in. Everyone take a deep breath in. I breathed in. And I heard all of the wind chimes, and I heard the birds. Things that maybe we're so busy, we don't. I just sat there and I'm like, okay, I can find some peace here. And for those of you that are divorced, the one thing I said when I decided to get divorced is, I don't want anything. I don't care. Do what you want. I just want peace of mind. Peace is the most important thing that we can have. And I think if we have it, then we can have good health. But if we don't have it, our stomachs are all tied up. Nothing is working right. So once again, ask yourself, how can you bring in your own life, the things that you like to do, more peace and the Spirit of God into your life? Gardening, looking at the ocean, meditating, taking a long drive, when the traffic is light, probably at 4 a.m, listening to or playing music, painting, cooking. These are all places to commune with Ruach Elohim if it's something that excites you and gets you connected to something that actually makes you feel good, that you can actually have control over. And then say thank you. There's a radio station I listen to in the morning. I always love it. It's Gratitude Fridays, and they always have these inspirational things. We have to take time to find the moment and the things that we want to be grateful for. So think about what feeds your soul, what could bring you into harmony and balance, that can help you breathe instead of actually holding your breath. Has anyone ever held their breath and realized it? Or maybe even gasping for air. And then think about who or what brings you joy. It is what it is. If something brings you joy, stick with it. If something is just not working for you, it's okay. Let it go. But truly, either let it go or truly embrace it. Because life, as we've seen with that young couple that got killed, is just too short. So all of these things that I've named and the things that you might have swirling around inside of you, they have elements of blessing within them that are designed for us to connect to peace. Bert Belzer wanted these roses and these gardens, and he would sit in his pew, a man of extraordinary wealth, All he wanted. I said, how do we ever repay you? How does anyone ever repay you? And he said, there's only one thing I ever wanted my entire life. And I said, what is it? He said, my name on a pew. He said, it was kind of difficult because mostly in Reform Judaism, we didn't do that. He goes, I want my name on a pew. So his name's on a pew. And he would sit in that pew and he would smile, and I'd see him looking out the window at the roses, and he'd breathe and he'd look at his little name thing there. And he would say to me, I feel Jerry. I sit here and I feel Jerry. Who or what brings you joy? All of these elements contain blessing within them. In this topsy-turvy world, we need to create the space to let peace in, to let go, and to not be afraid. So we have someone in our community that helped build this space, Margaret Howeisen. And relationships have their things and they come and go. But she's in the hospital, and she called me to come talk to her. And she said as she gets farther along in her life, she realizes where the blessings were. And she started to cry, and she said she was sorry for things, but she said she is so grateful that I converted her, and that her whole life has been filled with blessing since that moment. So we never know what are the things that we do that have an influence, even when people are gone, on their lives. So gathering in community, celebrating together, praying, and trying to make a higher connection, forgiveness, going forward, these are all paths towards peace, but also ruach, spirit. What we say or do to distract from it is what undermines and causes us to keep straying from the source. God created the garden and the promise of peace for us all. But it is our own flawed instincts that have created some of the chaos that we have grappled with, all of us, as one humanity from the beginning. The Torah is full of it. And guess what? Even angels don't have peace. There's all kinds of stories of rivalry and conflict. And in Torah study, I'm sure my husband would love to get into all that. Or we could have a class on it. There's a lot. They were jealous of us. When we ask that God be with us always and grant us peace, we ask that in the good times and in the bad, God will be watching over us, possibly orchestrating a path towards peace that we might not even see. We can only pray that here in the Middle East and beyond, that even with the rise in anti-Semitism and conflict across our country and with others, peace is the highest form of blessing that we can pray for, love you. Because when we have peace, we have everything. Peace of mind, peace in the heart and the soul, that is a blessing beyond compare. When we pray, we should pray for peace wherever it is needed, and most particularly within ourselves and our relationships. Then everything else can hopefully shift. And then God can create true abundance and blessing and ruach. So may God bless you and keep you. May God's countenance shine upon you and lift you up. May God be with you always and grant you peace. Together, Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.